Hey everyone, I am joined today by James Kelly, who has just won the men's pro race at the Birmingham HYROX at the weekend. That was his debut in the sport. He's done a time of 59.53. He's one of the first ever people to break the 60-minute barrier on his debut in HYROX, so he's going to be one to watch. So I wanted to get him on, chat to him about a bit more about his background, what his plans are for the sport, and basically introduce him to everyone. So thanks for joining us, James.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for the introduction. It's happy to be here. It's a bit of a I don't know. I'm reluctant to say that I thought this was going to happen. To be honest, I was coming over for a couple of races just to see what the hype was all about. But yeah, mate, it's good to be here.
Good. So just for some background, so you're from Australia, which people have probably worked out by now. So you've come over to the UK for a short stay, have you?
Yeah, mate. Just to clarify, I don't have an accent. You have an accent, alrighty? Mate, I've been in London for the last 3 weeks now, and obviously it's very well known when I speak. I'm from Australia, from Brisbane, which is sunny Queensland, and born and raised Brisbane. And yeah, I've just come over for a couple of months actually. Just have been following the HYROX, I guess, sport now as it is for quite some time, and obviously just wanted to get stuck into a few of the races.
Nice. Did you come over specifically for HYROX, or is it just as part of that you're doing?
Yeah, specifically for HYROX, yep. But also I own a online training program, which is JK hybrid training. So it's very similar to very specific HYROX programming. And it was just kind of like coming over here because of the theory of trying to create some traction for my business as well. And you know, it was more the fact why not more than why. Yeah, and really enjoying my stay at the moment, and really looking forward to the next couple of weeks.
Nice. Can you tell us a bit about your sporting background, what you've been doing in the past?
Yeah, well, I got brought up playing every sport under the sun. In Australia, you know, we go from the summer sports of cricket and swimming to the winter sports of running and some form of football. Mate, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, I was playing 3 or 4 sports on one weekend. I just loved it so much. Growing up through high school, to be honest, I was never really good at anything. I was just a well-rounded sportsman, but never excelled at one sport. However, I kind of got sucked into the sport of running and the sport of cross country, and that's kind of what I fell in love with more than anything else. And it's not necessarily running. It was more the fact that my coach back in the day, his name was Mr. Gunn. Gunny, we used to call him. He kind of had the philosophy of running was more about your heart and more about how much you wanted to grit your teeth more than anything else. And I guess moving on from that, that's what I fell in love with, the whole mentality around running mentally, grinding your teeth, working hard. And ever since then, so, you know, finished school, got stuck into some marathon running at quite a young age, at 19, 20 years of age. Mate, never was that good. I just loved it. I've also played a lot of Australian rules football, which I don't know if you know a lot about Aussie rules, but it's based around a lot of endurance running. So that kind of went hand in hand as well. But it's funny because I've never actually been elite at anything. Like never been actually even close to being professional at anything. So this is really new territory for me, but yeah, it's great so far.
Good, good. I put a thing up on Instagram a few weeks ago now saying, like, who do you think from the world of sport might do well in HYROX, or really it was break the world record in HYROX, but Aussie rules players came up a few times actually. Like it's like that combination of just endurance and strength seems to be like something that they would be suited to, HYROX, you know.
Mate, and I saw that story of yours, and I agree. And so this will obviously stem towards or lead in towards the type of training I do. Like I've been playing Aussie rules for 10 or so years now, and especially the last 3 years I've been training as an Aussie rules player leading into the summer in Australia, which is now. So I've just come off a long season of Aussie rules. And for those of you who don't know Aussie rules, as you just said, you're running anywhere between 10 to 15 kilometers per game. But it's not just running; it's anaerobic threshold running, to the point where you're sprinting for 200 meters, then you're stopping, you're tackling, you're getting up, doing another 50-meter sprint, stopping, tackling, getting up. Got to try to jump, squat, evade a tackle. So in relation to HYROX, it is very, very specific towards what kind of we do, because we run a kilometer, come in, do another form of fast movement, run a kilometer, come in, do another form of fast movement. So it's funny because I actually look back at my year that I've just had playing Aussie rules, and it was the best lead up into HYROX training.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing that stood out from what you were just saying is like your running coach from back in the day, like who was more about the heart and the grit and like, you know, gritting it out for a race. Like that's perfect prep for a HYROX as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. I didn't leading into the last 2 months before coming over here for Birmingham. You know, I think a lot of people before a HYROX try to simulate the race as much as possible, but my God, you can't do it. I spoke to Christian, the founder, after the race, and I just told him, I'm just like, mate, where did that come from? The actual test itself, like, it is the most, what's the word? Like, he has thought about that test so much to the point where I've never experienced anything like it. To the point where I even said to him, I think if he changed one station or flipped one station, it would be totally different. The stations are there for a reason at that time. So yeah, it's funny because, you know, I've spoken to a lot of athletes since, and you know, you try and replicate or simulate the race, but you really can't.
No, I think it's like, you appreciate that. I don't think a lot of people do, like that the thought and the design that went into the HYROX. And you hear a lot of people saying, I'd switch that out for that and this for that, but it would completely change it. You know, I don't think a lot of people appreciate just how well designed it is, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I really appreciate it because that's what I do for work. You know, I've got athletes at home that are on my hybrid training program, and a couple of them I'm really good mates with, obviously, and they know how much of a nerd I am in relations to just just trying to figure out the most grueling, gritty workout that I can that I can think of in a smart way, though. And leading on to that, like I have learned over time that fitness, and especially this type of fitness, functional training, is all about trial and error. It's all about adapting towards what your body needs, as opposed to what is right or wrong. And that's kind of what my job is at the moment, which is great. I'm loving it.
Nice. So you enjoyed it? You enjoyed the race, I assume?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I really did. And like, I'll be honest with you, to the point where I'm itching for London November 19th already, because it's one of those things. Spoke to one of the boys yesterday who's on my program. It's the fear of the unknown before you do anything. And now that I've done one, let's just say, mate, I've just started, to be honest. I really have. So that's the exciting part.
What surprised you about it, other than like just how grueling it was? Did anything surprise you about it?
Well, first of all, in terms of like an event and thinking about it from a spectator point of view, a business point of view, an overall kind of really good weekend out, I couldn't believe how big it was. Like the way that HYROX facilitated the weekend was A+. I've been to a lot of fitness events over my time as well, and mate, that was the best fitness event I've ever been to, like logistically as well. But in terms of the actual event and the competition itself, I really took for granted, to be completely honest and blunt, I really took for granted the both sled movements. And I guess that's the most exciting part for me as an athlete, looking at my splits. And I'll be honest with you, comparing it to other elite athletes, I'm just so excited because my sled push and sled pull weren't deemed elite in my eyes at all, and I still got under 60. So that surprised me, how hard the sled, how hard the sled pull was. Really surprised me. I thought that pull was going to be a lot easier. Apart from that, mate, just the overall excitement and community and vibe of the whole day was unreal. I've never experienced anything about it. And I'll be honest with you, I've heard wind of could HYROX be in the Olympics one day? Bloody oath it could, because it really attracts people. It really attracts like a type of person that really wants to have a crack.
Yeah. You went into the biggest one ever as well. Like, so the atmosphere in Birmingham, like 4,600 athletes, that was as big as it gets,
Phenomenal.
So yeah, it's a good place to start. And you're certainly not the first person to be surprised by the sleds in HYROX like that. Those sleds and the carpet and everything like that is unique, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We talked about, like, obviously Aussie Rules was good prep for HYROX, but had you been training specifically with doing HYROX in mind?
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't coming over here for until about 6 weeks ago, maybe. And but I always kind of had the inkling of coming over for a HYROX before I don't know, like at the end of this year, start of next year. So I've been training hybrid, I call it hybrid style functional fitness for 6 or 7 years. Specifically HYROX, where it is involved with running, probably the last 6 months. And that's the thing about me as a coach, but as an athlete myself, I'm very, very, very specific. So just an example, the way I operate is, you know, for me, the last 6 months training for a HYROX, I am trying to replicate the biomechanics as much as possible, and I can elaborate on that. I only went for one run per week. That is just a run, right? Every other running that I did was in a workout, because HYROX, you run a kilometer at a time. You never run more than a kilometer at a time. So what's the point of running a 40-minute run? Now, there are benefits of a 40-minute run. That's why I said I run once a week, a pure run. But I'm so specific. So the type of training I've been doing for HYROX is running station, running strength, running this, running that. I'm just all about trying to create your body to be so well adapted to the movement of the competition.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I did HYROX before Birmingham. I never actually did the actual event, but it's more like being so specific towards like running, doing something else, running something barbell work, running squat. You know what I mean? So I guess that gives you a bit of a mindset of like how I operate as an athlete, and how I operate as a coach as well.
Aside from the running, do you do much strength work in isolation? Are you spending much time squatting, deadlifting, and so on, just purely doing that?
Yeah, I squat, push, and deadlift once a week. And they're variation of, so could be 1 week I do like heavy front squats, the next week I do heavy back squats, the next week, or the 1 week I do heavy barbell deadlifts, the next week I do heavy barbell RDLs. But in terms of like isolation specific strength, there's not much. You know, I never jump in and do curls and tricep push downs or anything like that, because as I said, in my opinion, I've got to be as specific as possible. Everything that I do and everything that I've done for the last 6 months, I'll be honest, before I start a session, I am thinking why, and why am I doing this? And is it in correlation towards a specific movement of HYROX? Mm-hmm. And that's why I hit my posterior chain at least once a week. I still squat once a week, and I still push. I still do a bench or a overhead press once a week.
Now that you've done one event and experienced it, is there anything that you feel like you're going to change from your training that you've been doing, like going forward? Are there any adjustments you're going to make, maybe after you've looked at the data from your race and everything like that? Anything stand out?
It's funny because, like, I said to you earlier, I think off air, I'm a sucker for data. I'm a analytical freak. I love looking at numbers, and there's a part of me that could look at my result and go, oh, nah, I don't need to change much. But, mate, I'm not, you might not have heard of this. It might be an Aussie. Actually, you would have heard of this, actually. Mate, I'm not here to waste time. I'm not here for a haircut. I'm here to win in May at the World Championship. So if I want to do that, I need to get down to 56, 57 minutes. So there are some tweaks that I've already started for my training. And you know, I'm not afraid to talk about them. There's specific sled stuff that I've already started, and as I said, as soon as I can start thinking that I can get my 2 sled movements down a little bit, that's already a minute or so. Apart from that, funnily enough, I had to do a couple of things that I didn't think I would have to in the actual competition. And 2 things. I thought the walking lunge was going to be a breeze in the park. I thought I would kind of just rep that out very, very easily. I had to take 4 or 5 pretty substantial breaks. And mate, I'm so excited that I had to. And training for the I get excited by talking about this because, like, yeah, I've just started, mate. The farmer's carry, mate. I had to dump the kettlebells at halfway, and training. The 200 meters farmer carry walk was a breeze, and I had to. That would have cost me an extra, I'm going to say 20 seconds at least. So those 2 things, I'm just like, far out. I'm excited because those 2 movements, I really want to make sure that I'm better at come London even. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like, it comes back to what you're saying, like you can't replicate the race. Like those are stations 6 and 7. Like you might be able to bash out the lunges like fresh in the gym, but 50 or so minutes into a HYROX is a different kettle of fish, isn't it?
Different kettle of fish, mate. Different kettle of fish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
How often do you train? Are you training 6, 7 days a week?
Yeah, I try. I train 6 days a week. I alluded before, like I've been training specifically functional fitness for about 6 or 7 years now, and the best thing about that is I've learnt a lot about my own body, and the best thing about that is I know my body so well, which means I know when I need to have a rest. I know when I need to, or when I should be having a real hot crack. So I'm lucky enough that I'm so in tune with my body that I can go, all right, today I'm going to full send it. And then tomorrow I'm going to back it off a bit. So I don't follow the structure of 4 days on, 1 day off, or 6 days a week, 1 day off.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more about really trying to understand my body and what it needs at the time. And I did say before, like, that's all trial and error. Like, everything, my opinion, everything in fitness, health, nutrition is all about trial and error. The training methodology that works for me won't work for you. And that's the hardest part about it, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. How old are you, can I ask?
How old do you think I am?
Oh, man, you can't ask that.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
I would say...
What's yourself?
25.
Oh, really? I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll wish up, mate. If I was 25, mate, I'd be cheering. No, I'm 29. 29. Okay. So not far off. 25, mate. What was I doing 25? I was still pretty fit back then. It's funny though, like, it's only the last couple of years that I've really like, actually my mum will laugh at this, that I've really kind of matured. You know, I've always taken my fitness seriously and sports seriously, but I was very like unbalanced maybe at 25. That's probably the right term to use. But the last couple of years, I've really kind of zoned it in a bit more. My priorities are different now. And And right here, right now, at 29 years of age, my priority is to be the best athlete that I can be. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Something that a lot of people that follow me like to know is I've done a call with Rich Ryan recently where we talked about just how fast some of these elite guys are, like over 5K, 10K, how much can they deadlift, that type of thing. If you're happy to, can we get into some of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we talk about run times, then and we can use 5K, 10K, half marathon. Do you know where you would be roughly for those?
Yeah, it's funny because right here, right now, I actually wouldn't know because, as I said before, I have not tested my 5K, 8K, 10K, or half marathon for years. But when I used to run a couple of years ago, a bit more competitively, I guess, my 5K time has not been less than 16:30, and I'm saying 16:30 because I watched Rich Ryan's podcast with you, and he said something like the elite runners, the elite HYROX athletes should be getting at the most a 16:35K. The only time I remember cracking the 17-minute mark for the 5K is when I came last in a 5K in a 5K pro race. I still remember it, mate. I thought I was in an absolute elite condition, and I was put to shame. I still remember it. But to answer that question, 16:40 I think was my best 5K.
Yeah.
And just going on from that, the thing is though, my best 10K is a 33. So think about that, like from an athlete perspective, and we spoke about how analytical we both are, data. My percentage or my 5K compared to my 10K is very, very similar pace.
Yeah. You're not dropping off over a longer
distance. Not.
No.
I'm not. To the point where my half marathon is very similar. My best half marathon is 1:15, which is real in correlation to those. Actually, you know what? That does drop off a little bit, but it is in correlation to those type of times.
Yeah.
I have ran two 250-hour marathons. So that was back in 2015 and 16, so a couple of years ago now. And for those of you who have done a marathon, that's a different beast compared to any other type of running event, because as we all probably have heard, the marathon only starts at the 35K mark, So, but going back to kind of what would be my 5K time now? Well, the answer to that question is I have no idea, because the only type of running I've been doing for the past 6 months is anaerobic threshold running through Aussie rules, and then also anaerobic threshold running in relation to specific HYROX workouts. So 1K at a time. And you know what? I'll tell the world this. There was no workout that I ever did in the last 6 months that I would run more than a kilometer at a time. What's the point? What's the point when you're going to do that anyway in the actual competition? So my workouts would be consisting of 400-meter repeats, 800-meter repeats. And I'll be honest with you, 800-meter repeats was my staple, because you can really try and push an 800-meter. But my theory behind that is, what's the point of running more than what you're going to do on the day? Because when you do that, your intensity drops.
It's something that really attracted me to HYROX personally, because like I didn't really like the long, slow, plodding runs,
Yeah.
and to be able to like compete at that and train at those sort of distances and just do them again and again, like is much more attractive to me.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely. And like that's the thing though, because this is my type of training and this is my kind of view. I'm not saying it's right. It's kind of I guess you can say it's worked for me for my lead up into Birmingham. But yeah, so that kind of answers the question, I guess.
I think it's probably as well one reason why we're starting to see faster times in the sport, because people are training more specifically for HYROX as opposed to coming from a running background and doing well. But as soon as you start to get a bit more specific in the sport, then times are going to get faster, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the running that we've talked about. On a strength side, like we could use deadlifts or squats or whatever you want really as an indicator. Like what might you deadlift or squat for 1 or 3 reps? Do you know?
Yeah, like again, I did test my 3RM of my deadlift and back squat. My deadlift is about 175, so it's in relation to other athletes that are doing that are in the professional sporting arena. It's not that heavy. And then back squat, mate. I only back squat 150 kilos, and I bench press 135. So it's interesting because from a specific strength standpoint, I'm not as strong as I probably should be. But again, it's to do with what I train. It's to do with how I train, and it's to do with how I've trained over time. I've never really specifically done a strength period or been on a. Sorry, I should say I've never really been on a strength block at all. I do strength. I do proper strength workouts throughout the week or periodized strength, but not a strength block. And to be honest, that's directly because I love the feeling of feeling fit more than anything else.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think there's, me and Rich talked about this a bit, but you've got to be strong enough in HYROX, but I don't think the strength requirements are crazy.
Bingo. I really liked how Rich said that, because you got to be strong enough. Full stop. Period. You've got to be fit. You've got to be fit. And being like I'll throw you the question. What's the difference between having a 150 kilogram back squat compared to a 180 kilogram back squat, and is that extra 30 kilogram of strength actually going to help you win a HYROX? I don't know, but I don't think so.
No, possibly not. Like again, like if the 150 leaves you strong enough to move those sleds, then it should be enough. I guess you could question how fatigued that leaves you afterwards then, and whether it compromises your running more. But at the same time, like if you've spent less time working on that squat, those extra 30 kilograms on your squat and more time on your running, that's probably beneficial in HYROX.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny though, like and this is me being a stickler for biomechanics and coaching. I probably lunged and used the sled more than I squatted, because biomechanically that sled push, you're loading up one leg at a time. You're not using both your limbs to produce power. So I did a lot of walking, like heavy barbell walking lunges, heavy and heavy sled pushes. And that's just something that's just looking at the biomechanics of a sled push and thinking to yourself, well, yeah, you're only using one leg at a time. So what's the point of squatting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nice. All right. We put out. Well, I put out on my Insta stories, and then you shared it. If anyone's got any questions for you,
Yeah.
And we've gone through some of those already. I had a load from Australians, so I think there's a lot from your friends out there.
No. Uh-oh.
Well, Tom B wanted to know what your favourite workout tune was.
Well, workout tune. Look, I'm a bit of a stickler for I do love a bit of I do love a bit of Bieber. I get sometimes I get into my zone where I get really emotional working out and I love it. And Bieber does that to me. So I'd probably say a couple of his tunes actually.
Okay, you're losing credibility.
Yeah, I know,
60 minutes.
I know I am, but that's the truth, mate. That's the truth.
All right. Butch Ringwood wants to know if your brother-in-law was the inspiration to break 60 minutes.
Well, I'm going to tell Butch Ringwood that I don't have a brother-in-law yet, but I'm waiting.
Okay.
All right, I'm waiting.
All right.
Thanks, man.
Georgie says you got a thing for Quest bars with peanut butter, have you?
Is that right, Georgie? Oh, is that right? Thank you for that, Georgie. Georgie's my girlfriend, actually, and she's back in Australia at the moment, and I do. So the Quest bar and peanut butter is my staple dessert at night, and I'm again a stickler for how you do it in the ratio of how much peanut butter, and I've been FaceTiming her at night when she's been having it at home, and she does it wrong. She does it totally wrong. And I get very irritated because I'm the only one that makes them right. And but yes, no, Quest bar and peanut butter. And actually, do you guys? I don't think you have Quest bars over here, do you?
I don't know. I know I was thinking about it when I saw that question. I know I used to have them about like 15 years ago. I remember I had them, but I can't say I've seen them since. To be fair, I mean, I don't really have the protein bars anymore, so I don't look for them. But I don't think we do.
Right? Yeah. I can't find them. They are my go-to. So Georgie's actually coming over in a week's time for 2 weeks with me, and I've told her that she has to bring a couple over because I'm missing them.
I know we have Grenade protein bars. I think
Grenades.
Yeah.
Grenades are good as well.
Yeah.
Grenades are good as well.
What's your flavour of choice with the Quest ones, in case people want to know?
Cookies and cream, mate, all the way. Cookies and cream.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
And then your sister said you got to show us the dance that you used to do as a kid, which you still do before your workouts.
Oh, mate, that's not going to happen. Let's just say it. Maybe now I'll tell the world this: the only way that people will be able to see that dance is if I win the world championship in May.
All right, deal.
All right.
All right. So what's your plan for more races this year? You're not going to do Amsterdam this weekend, no?
No. I was thinking about it, but again, I've got to listen to my body, and that's what I'm doing. There's a part of me that got so excited about the weekend just gone that all I want to do is race, and all I want to do is compete. But if I'm being smart, I don't want to blow myself up. So to answer your question, I was going to go over and do Essen, but I've decided not to. Essen's the week before London. But so long story short, the only other race I've committed to is the London one on November 19th.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then would you plan, if you're in the Elite 15, would you plan to do Maastricht, which I think is towards the end of January, the European Championships? Would you plan to be there for that?
Yeah. I'm heading home in November, just after the London race. But I would love to set my eyes for the European Championship race, leading into that World Championship race. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it's one of those things right here, right now. I'm sticking to my. I'm so dialed in towards getting my time of 59:53 down a couple of minutes, and that's all I care about for London come November 19th.
Yeah, sure. All right, nice. All right, well, thank you. So you do online training. Do you want to tell people a little bit about that, where to find you and so on?
Yeah, so JK_hybrid training on Instagram is probably where to go. And it's hybrid training, very HYROX specific training as well. You know, you're doing a lot of conditioning, aerobic work that has strength principles as a backbone. That's probably the way to talk about what hybrid training is. It's all personalized though. So if you jumped on, mate, and your goal was to do this before April, then that's what I'd be programming for. And if someone else jumped on and wanted 6 weeks with me, then I'd be targeting that. So it's all personalized, and you'll be able to check that out or there's a link on my bio for that as well. So I'd love to get a couple more HYROX athletes as well.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Anything else you want to add before we finish up?
No, mate. Just well, thanks for having me, and it's been a great introduction to the HYROX world, and I'm just so excited, and I guess I'm very keen to keep the ball rolling.
Well, thank you. We're excited to see what you can do as well. 60 minutes in your first race, that's nice, man. So excited to see what you can do.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks. Take care, everyone. See ya.
See you, mate.